Hi, I'm Mike Sutton from ROI Training. And in this What's New video, we're going to demonstrate how we can back up S3 buckets using AWS Backup. This was a feature they added in the last month or so. So we'll go ahead and walk through the process. So let's go ahead and get started with the demo. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and go to S3. And we're going to get to a bucket called My Backup Demo Bucket. And when we click in there, we see that we do have a file. Now, this is the bucket we're going to back up using AWS Backup. So when I come back to AWS Backup, which we'll get here from the AWS service window of recently used services, from here, we'll go ahead and we'll create a backup plan. Now, the backup plan really sets up the schedule for us. And we can start with a template, and we have a variety of templates to choose from. We could also set this up by defining a plan using JSON. So if I have a previous plan, I can copy the content of it in place, make modifications. But what we're going to do is we're going to build a new plan using the console. So we'll start by giving our plan a name. So in this case, I'm going to call our plan S3 Plan. We have the ability to add tags if need be, key value pairs. We can do that right here. But we'll start with the backup configuration itself first. So for the rule configuration, we'll call this S3 rule. And we can select a vault to which we're going to back up to. Now, when we create a vault, we just give our vault a name and encryption key via KMS that we would use to encrypt our data. Now, in our case, for what we're doing, the default vault will work. Now, we could also select the backup frequency. For example, if I'm backing up RDS or S3, I could do point-in-time recoveries if I want to do that. I could also use a default backup window, which we can do as well. Or I can customize the backup window for my needs. Now, another option that we can configure is whether we want to transfer old backups to cold storage, something like archive storage. So I could either select never or select a time frame. Now, the retention period itself can also be set, and we'll set this to say 35 days, for example. And we copy to a vault in another region. This is important because if we do lose the Oregon region, I don't want to have my backups here, right? So we can set up multiple copies. I can add a copy to go to other locations if need be. For our purposes, that's fine. So once I have that in place, I create the plan. So I have a plan and a rule, but I haven't really set up a resource to actually back up yet. Remember, the new feature of this is we're able to back up S3 buckets to our vaults. So when I assign a resource, I can go ahead and give the assignment a name. So I'll call this S3 resource. Now, I could also define whether I want to use a default role or choose an IAM role to distribute permissions. And I have one I created earlier called Backup Demo Role that I'll use. Now, once I have that in place, I want to set a resource selection. I can back up everything, or I can just pick and choose these services I want to back up. And when I select this, you're going to see a list of all the services available. The new one here is S3, so I'll select that. I can back up all buckets, or I can pick and choose the bucket I want to back up. In this case, my backup demo bucket. I can select that one, and I can select others as well. I can also exclude resources, and I can also refine selection using tags. I can set tags to things and assign it in that way. So right now, we have this scheduled to back up. We have our plan, we have our rule, and we have our resource. And based on this configuration, it will back it up based on how we set the plan. Now, I don't want to wait for the plan, so let's just go ahead and do a backup. Right now, I have no protected resources. They're not protected until they're backed up. So this is what I'm going to do next. I'm going to create an on-demand backup, and I can select the resource type here. And I'll select S3. I'll select the bucket name in this case, and that's going to be my backup demo bucket. I can back it up now or set up a backup window. I can set my retention. In this case, I'm going to set it just for 1 day, right? We're just walking through the process. I'll use my default vault, and I'll use the role I mentioned earlier that I created, my backup demo role. Now, once all of that's in place, I can create this on-demand backup, and this is going to kick off the process. So I can see that we created the backup job, then it'll go to running. So right now I am in the process of backing up my vault, and I cut the time off to this so it didn't have to wait so long, but it is complete now. And when I look at the details, I can see the status, my bucket ID, the creation date, the completion date, all of that is available to me. And when I go to protected resources now, I see I have that backup listed. So let's go through a restoration. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to my original bucket. I'm going to go to where my file resides, and I'm going to delete this file. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and delete it. So I type delete to confirm, I hit delete objects, and now my bucket is empty. So what I want to do next is I want to walk through, how do I use these backups? How do I restore? So I'm going to go back to AWS Backup. I'm going to go back to my protected resources. I'm going to click on my backup. And what you're going to notice is when I click on my backup on the left-hand side, the restore button becomes available. So when I select that restore button, I can restore the entire bucket or just an item from within a bucket by using the URI of that object. I can add items as well. We'll just do the whole bucket. I can set a destination, whether that be the original source, an existing bucket, or just create a new one. I can define which KMS key I want to use, or I could use the original. I could also use S3 backup options in this case, or encryption options in this case. I can select my role again because I still need the permissions to be able to do this. So I select my backup demo role again. And then I can hit restore the backup. Now this is going to take a little bit of time, and I truncated this to make it move a little bit faster. But we see where it goes from created to running to eventually getting to the point when it is complete. So we can keep refreshing for status, or it'll update itself. But eventually what I'm going to see is it completes. So let's go back to our bucket to see if it actually did what was intended. Did it actually restore my files? So if I go back to S3, I go and look at my bucket, I should see that my file is now back. So the whole goal of this was just to show you a new feature they added to backups where we can back up now S3 buckets.